Okay, let's get on with the Thursday the 30th of July 2026 long form. Why high performers schedule time they refuse to give away. The opening. One of the biggest misconceptions about time management is the belief that productivity and productive people simply have better discipline. Let's do that again. One of the biggest misconceptions about time management is the belief that productive people simply have better discipline. While discipline certainly matters, it's rarely the primary reason for some people consistently making progress on work while others struggle to find time. The difference often lies in what gets protected. Most professionals manage their calendar by reacting to incoming demands. Meetings appear, requests arrive, priorities shift, and available space gradually disappears. By the end of the week, the calendar is full, yet many of the most important responsibilities have received far less attention than intended. By the end of the week, the calendar is full, yet many of the most important responsibilities have received far less attention than intended. This creates a frustrating cycle. People say stay busy, work hard, and remain active throughout the day. But the work that creates the greatest value often receives whatever time happens to be left over. Unfortunately, there is rarely much left over. Why important work gets pushed aside. Important work is often easier to postpone than urgent work. Urgent responsibilities create immediate pressure. They come with deadlines, requests, notifications, and expectations that demand attention now. Important work is different. Strategic thinking, planning, innovation, relationship building, and long-term development rarely demand immediate action. They can usually wait until tomorrow. That flexibility is exactly what makes it vulnerable. When calendars become crowded, important work is often the first thing that gets sacrificed, because postponing it creates no immediate consequence. The problem is that repeated postponement eventually creates significant consequences. Weeks pass, projects move slower than expected, strategic priorities receive less attention than they deserve. People remain busy while making less progress than they hoped. Why empty space makes people uncomfortable. Many professionals treat an empty space on their calendar as unused capacity. If an hour becomes available, something gets scheduled. If a meeting is cancelled, another task quickly takes its place. If an hour becomes available, something gets scheduled. Let's do that again. Start from the top. Why empty space makes people uncomfortable. Many professionals treat an empty space on their calendar as unused capacity. If an hour becomes available, something gets scheduled. If a meeting is cancelled, another task quickly takes its place. Open time often feels like wasted time. That reality is an empty space. It can be one of the most valuable resources in a professional's schedule. Space creates room for thinking. It allows people to prepare properly, reflect on decisions, and focus on work that requires sustained attention. Without that space, the day becomes a sequence of reactions rather than intended choices or intentional choices. This is particularly important for leaders. leadership often requires solving problems that cannot be resolved through speed alone. Good decisions require perspective, judgment, and thoughtful consideration, all of which depend on having good space or having enough space to think clearly. When every available minute is occupied, those opportunities become increasingly difficult to find. People remain busy, but their ability to think strategically begins to shrink. Okay, time for a drink. The difference between available time and predicted time. Many people assume that important work will happen whenever they find the time. The problem is that available time and predicted time are not the same thing. Available time is vulnerable. It can be claimed by a meeting, a request, an email, or an unexpected issue that suddenly feels more urgent than whatever was originally planned. Predicted time operates differently because it has already been assigned a purpose. A conscious decision has been made that certain work deserves dedicated attention, and that decision exists before competing demands have the opportunity to take control of the schedule. This is one reason why high performers consistently make progress on meaningful priorities. They do not wait for free time to appear. They decide in advance where their attention will go and build the calendar around the decision. The result is greater consistency. Important work stops depending on whatever time happens to remain and begins receiving the attention it actually requires. Why boundaries protect performance. Every commitment competes for the same finite attention. Within boundaries, let's do that again. Every commitment competes for the same finite attention. Without boundaries, the loudest demand often receives the greatest attention, regardless of the actual importance. As a result, professionals can spend enormous amounts of time of energy responding to immediate needs while neglecting the work that will create the greatest long-term impact. Boundaries help correct the imbalance by creating limits around what can access attention when. They protect focus from unnecessary interruptions and prevent every request from automatically becoming a priority. This is not about becoming unavailable to other people. It's about becoming intentional with attention. Let's do that again. This is not about becoming unavailable to other people. It is about becoming intentional with attention and ensuring that important work receives the focus it requires before less important work begins competing for the same space. The purpose of a boundary is not to prevent work from happening. The purpose is to ensure that the right work receives attention it deserves. What high performers understand about time. Highly effective professionals understand something that many people overlook. A calendar is not simply a record of how time was spent. It's a reflection of priorities, but that those priorities were chosen deliberately or allowed to emerge by default. Every meeting, project, and commitment occupies space that cannot be used elsewhere. Every yes creates a corresponding no, or several no's, whether that trade-off is acknowledged or not. This is why successful people become increasingly selective about how their time is allocated. They recognize the attention is finite and meaningful work requires protection if it's going to receive the focus necessary for success. Meaningful work rarely happens by accident. Rather than filling every available hour, high performers deliberately create space for their activities that generate the greatest value and protect the space before competing demands have an opportunity to claim it. Their calendars are not organized around whatever appears first, they're organized around what matters most. In closing, many people believe productivity is about fitting more into the day. In reality, productivity is about protecting what matters from everything that competes with it. The professionals who make consistent progress on important work are rarely those with the emptiest schedules. More often, they're the people who understand that attention is limited and that meaningful priorities require deliberate protection. Time management is not simply about managing commitments. It's about protecting the space required to fulfill those commitments as well, ensuring that important work receives attention before urgency consumes every hour. When people begin treating their calendars as reflecting of their priorities rather than a collection of obligations, their decisions become clearer, their attention becomes more intentional, and their progress becomes more consistent. Comment below, what is one thing on your calendar that deserves more protected time? Don't forget to hit the like button, the bell for notifications, and subscribe to TIDAL Coach so you can join a community that is redefining what modern leadership looks like. See you in the next video, and thank you for watching.